It is the month of January that we've all been waiting for. A full house soon at Carrington, and that means one thing: selection headache for the boss, Erik ten Hag. But what exactly is he supposed to do with his big squad that is returning full and fresh? Welcome to the United Hotspot. My name is Webb, and here is the official preview for that big clash against Wigan Athletic in the FA Cup. Do we get to see Bayindir starting between the sticks for the first time? I mean, we've been praying and hoping for this for so long. Is it going to be a fast start for Diallo in a while? Or is it the same or Scott McTominay, Anthony, and Co? Let's get into it. My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot. Now, I'll make it clear for you that Erik ten Hag said and made it clear that we should start judging him in January when he does have a full house. Now, it's not full yet, completely full yet, but by the 14th of January, when we do take on Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League, we know that it is going to be a full house. But first, we do have Wigan to deal with, and most of the players are there. And I'm here to give you my take. At the end of this video, I'm going to be giving you my starting squad that I think Erik ten Hag should start against Wigan. But also, most importantly, I'm going to focus on players who I think should be coming in there and having a proper claim for a starting place in the team. Now, I'll start it off with the goal. Of course, Erik ten Hag in his pre-match press conference confirmed that Andre ONANA is going to be available for the Wigan game. Now, I'm not sure that is exciting news for you, but the reality is, yes, he's our first choice goalkeeper, and if he's there, it should be good, isn't it? Even if we know that the African Cup of Nations is just a few days away. But I think for me, in all honesty, I think it is time for Erik ten Hag to start Bayindir. I think as the supporters of this club, the world at large, the lovers of football deserve an opportunity to see our second choice goalkeeper start in goal. And what better than Wigan to start against? Because for me, the reality is with the humiliation we got in the Champions League, in such an easy Champions League group, I don't think the FA Cup is something we should look at as, something to salvage, a thing for us, some pride for us. I think we lost all our honor and pride a long time ago, and we should focus mostly on the Premier League. Now, if you've got a FA Cup clash against Wigan, and I'm not saying Erik ten Hag should not take that game serious, because I don't think Bayindir is that bad. I think if I know he cannot start him against Tottenham Hotspur, that's why they insist on having ONANA yet on the next day. His Cameroon is playing. I think the world we have a right to see Bayindir start. And I think for me, the first change I would think Erik ten Hag should be making is starting Bayindir in between the sticks. Regardless what happens, I think that will even endear him to a lot of Man United supporters, because I don't think I'm alone in that. So for me, that's the first change I expect in that team. That I think is going to be so important for Erik ten Hag. I've told you that at the tail end, I will give you my preferred starting team. I will not focus on the back line. I don't so much want to dwell on the back line. I think it doesn't matter who is in the back line. If we've got the right players ahead, I think whoever is in the defense, especially the central defense, we can do well. Now, that's the one first start I think I would want to make clear. Now, two, Casemiro has been back and training. He last played football in September against Bayern Munich. Now, for me, I think that's a long time. Now, whereas we know he said that he will be fully fit for on the 14th, the fact that he's been back and training well, I've been watching videos every day of him in training, and I feel he looks good and fresh. I think it would be unfair for Casemiro to start against Tottenham, yet he has not been playing for a while. For me, I think the game against Wigan is an opportunity for Ten Hag to test some of his players who have not been there before the Spurs game, because the beauty is between Wigan and Spurs, there is almost a week. There are some bit of days, because the Wigan is on Monday on the 8th and Spurs is on the 14th. So I feel for me that that would be a Sunday the same weekend. So for me, I feel like we can, he can test players like Casemiro, Lisandro Martinez, and maybe both of them. Perhaps he may not start both of them, but at least one. So for me, if he starts, for example, Casemiro in the middle, together with Kobe Maino, and I'll talk about that later, we'll debate who should start. I think for me, it would be good for us to see how Casemiro looks. But even for Casemiro, it would be a good opportunity for him to get some game time in his feet before a big one, because the clash against Spurs is certainly going to be a serious, tough game. So for me, that's an important one. So I think Casemiro should be starting. Erik ten Hag, I feel, I spoke about Lisandro Martinez. I think Martinez has also not been playing for I think since November. Last played against Newcastle. I think if he has been training well, let him play against Wigan before he comes to be manning our central defense against Spurs. Test him, give him some competitive atmosphere, some match atmosphere in a big game, and Wigan is a decent one. So for me, I also think if he's fit, he may not start both. Maybe one can come in as a substitute, but let him start one of the two, or if both, if he can. But if not, he can start one. But for me, Martinez and Casemiro should be in the squad, and one of them should start. So that's the other important change I expect Erik Ten Hag to make. Remember, he's told us in the press conference that he's going to largely have, by and large, he's going to have the same squad he had for the game against Nottingham. I don't exactly buy into that because I expect Rasmus Højlund to return in the team. He had an illness, unless he has got something else we didn't know. But I think Erik Ten Hag is just trying to surprise us. I think we're just going to have some late news there that some of these players are available and they will be in the squad. But I think Rasmus Højlund should be there, as we'll see in the squad, in the starting, the midfield, the goal, the midfield, and the attack. I will not dwell on the back line, like I said, but for me that will be important. Now, another important player who should be starting this one, and there should be no debates about this. I think there should be no complaints about it. I think this is an obvious start. Amad Diallo should start against Wigan. This is the time for Amad Diallo to be starting. I don't expect to see Anthony starting that game against Wigan. This is the opportunity for Diallo to get a feel of a starting atmosphere. This is an opportunity for people to enjoy Amad Diallo without pressure, because the pressure of the Premier League is different from the pressure of the FA Cup. This is an opportunity for him to get some bit of rhythm before the Spurs game, which I think he should also be starting. So Amad Diallo should be a starter against Wigan in whichever way you look at it. Very important. Now, the other player who I think, and we will debate about this one, but I'm going to bring this one in the squad. Now, this is for me how I think Erik Ten Hag should be assembling his attack. I told you I will not dwell on the back line. If Martinez is there in the back line, I think it would be good. If not, it's okay. But for me, I will focus more on the players going forward from the back line. But the back line, well, it's predictable. It's too predictable when players are fit. But also, if we've got the same players ahead of them, I think we're okay. So in goal, for me, I would love to see Bayindir against Wigan. Up in the middle, Kobbie Mainoo was substituted off against Nottingham Forest. Of course, something that we all believe cost us the game. I think he can start with Casemiro for us to get an opportunity, because that should be our main pivot. I'm still for a double pivot. I know that Erik Ten Hag loves to play a single pivot, and a single pivot would mean have one holding midfielder. So you have Kobbie Mainoo here, then Casemiro playing alongside either Eriksen or Bruno. But I think against Wigan, Bruno has played too much football in 2018, ran a lot of yards. I think you can rest him, because obviously against Spurs, Bruno is going to be probably the first name on the sheet. So why not bring back Casemiro, because he's been training good. Let him get a few minutes. He may not play the full 90 minutes. Start him and let's get an idea of how him and Kobbie Mainoo can play together. We want to see it. At the very worst, if Casemiro is starting the bench and maybe Martinez is starting in the back, let Casemiro be on the pitch at the same time with Kobbie Mainoo at some point in the game. For me, I would love to see that against Wigan. So I would expect to see Kobbie Mainoo play against Casemiro. But for me, Mainoo, because he rested for a significant part of the Nottingham Forest game, people want to see Casemiro in the team. I think it's early days for Erik Ten Hag to make a mistake of benching Kobbie Mainoo, because he even gives us energy to watch Man United games. So put Kobbie Mainoo there together with Casemiro. I'm mostly for a double pivot, but knowing Erik Ten Hag, he will not play a double pivot. So you put Mainoo there together with Christian Eriksen ahead of Bruno. Eriksen more of as a number 10. Casemiro slightly behind him. Then rest Alejandro Garnacho and keep him fresh, who is our player of the month, by the way. Keep him fresh for the Spurs game, or he can come on later as a substitute. So let Marcus Rashford, who had a decent game against Aston Villa, let Rashford start on the left, Amad Diallo starts on the right, and Rasmus Højlund up top. For me, I feel like this would be something different, and this could even turn out to be our best game of the season. But of course, knowing Erik Ten Hag, This is an FA Cup tie. He might drop in Scott McTominay in there. He might drop in. Maybe he can start. He could start Scott McTominay in place of Kobe Maino, and again that would kill the energy of the supporters. But for me, the reality is, so as long as Altel Bayindir starts, I want to look at Casemiro one time before the Spurs game. He has been out for long. I want Martinez to be in the squad, and even if he doesn't start, he can come on as a substitute. Amad Diallo should be starting. Garnacho rest. Let Marcus Rashford start. Garnacho will be playing against Spurs. Rasmus Højlund, because he missed the other game, I think he will be available for this game. They didn't give us a clear update on him. Let him start up top to get some match fitness. You can pull him off later and maybe bring in Garnacho, and then Rashford can go as a false nine and Garnacho goes on the left. But for me, this should be our starting attack. And trust me, it will obliterate this Wigan team. If we play this game with ease, we can actually go on and win the FA Cup. But our approach, our intention should not be focusing on winning the FA Cup. We should be using it to prepare players for the bigger one, because the top four, if we won the FA Cup and finish outside the top four, for me, I still think that will be a bad season. So very important for me. Let me know what you think. Webb is my name, the United Hotspot. Subscribe, and let me catch you later, fam.